In Russia's military, a culture of brutality runs deep. CNN captures horrific photos of mass grave site in Ukraine. Lviv, Ukraine, CNN. The grotesque pictures emerging from the Kiev suburb of Bucha are some of the strongest evidence yet of apparent war crimes by Russian forces in Ukraine. Dead civilians on the street, some with hands bound and shot execution style, others apparently mowed down at random. For anyone who has followed Russian President Vladimir Putin's way of war, it's a depressingly familiar pattern. Russia's military has a culture of brutality and scorn for the laws of armed conflict that has been extensively documented in the past. The history of Russia's military interventions, be it in Ukraine or Syria, or each military campaign at home in Chechnya, is tainted with blatant disregard for international humanitarian law, said Andres Kalamard, Amnesty International Secretary General. The Russian military reportedly flouted the laws of war by failing to protect civilians and even attacking them directly. Russian forces have launched discriminate attacks, used banned weapons, and sometimes apparently deliberately targeted civilians and civilian objects, the war crime. That statement, made less than a month before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, has proven sadly prophetic. In the opening weeks of the war, the international community reacted with horror as Ukrainian cities came under relentless Russian bombardment. Protected civilian infrastructure was hit, much as Russian aircraft once targeted Syrian schools and hospitals. But the scenes unfolding in places like Bucha suggest intimate kinds of violence, something reminiscent of Russia's war in Chechnya. During the Second Chechen War, which coincided with Putin's rise to power, allegations also surfaced with widespread human rights abuse by Russian troops. In 2000, to cite just one well-known incident, investigators with Human Rights Watch documented the summary execution of at least 60 civilians in two suburbs of Grozny, the capital of Chechnya. Locals unearthed mass graves in Chechnya. International officials made fact-finding trips to the region and made concerned statements about the reports of abuse and extrajudicial killings. Those statements did not stop Russia's military from grinding ahead with its ruthless pacification campaign. Russian soldiers are seen in Grozny, Chechnya on February 5th. 2000. Similar evidence of summary executions abounds in towns such as Bucha. A CNN team visited a basement of one building and saw the bodies of 5 men before they were removed by the Ukrainian team. An advisor to the Ukrainian Interior Minister Anton Gerachchenko told CNN that the 5 men had been tortured and executed by Russian soldiers. CNN cannot dependently verify Gerachchenko's claims. But equally troubling is the alleged treatment of Ukrainian prisoners of war by Russian forces. The Ukrainian Parliament Human Rights Ombudsman Lyudmila Denisova said Monday that Russia's treatment of prisoners of war violates the Geneva Conventions, laying out the theoretical case for potential war crimes prosecutions. In the Facebook post on Monday, Denisova said that released Ukrainian soldiers have told of the inhumane treatment of them by the Russian side. They were kept in the field, in the pit, in the garage. Periodically, one was taken out, beaten with the rifle butt, shot fired next to their ear, intimidated. CNN cannot independently verify Denisova's claims. Tanya Nedashkievska, 57, mourns the death of her husband, who was killed in Bucha. Igor Zdanov, a correspondent for the Russian state propaganda outlet RT, posted videos on March 22nd depicting Ukrainian prisoners of war being processed for filtration. Zdanov's choice of word after they were captured. The videos showed masked Russians searching their captives for tattoos or insignia, which would supposedly show affiliation with nationalist or neo-Nazi groups that the Russians had cast as their main enemy in Ukraine. Zdanov said in his post that Ukrainian POWs were being treated humanely, but his choice of words was ominous. During the war in Chechnya, Russian forces notoriously used the so-called filtration camps used to separate civilians from the rebel fighters. Legendary Russian investigative reporter Anya Politkovskaya gathered testimony from Chechen civilians detained in filtration centers, where detainees said they were held in pit and subjected to electric shock, beatings, and ruthless interrogation. Russian forces have also targeted local Ukrainian mayors for detention, and in at least one case, Ukrainian officials said an extrajudicial killed. At the moment, 11 local mayors from Kiev, Kherson, Mykolaiv, and Donetsk regions are in Russian captivity. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Bereshchuk said in a message posted on social media Sunday that she said the Ukrainian government learned Saturday that Olga Shuktenko, a mayor of Motygin, a village in the Kiev region, was killed in the custody of Russian forces. Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of the southern city of Melitopol, who was detained by Russian forces but subsequently freed as part of the prisoner exchange, said Russian forces occupying his city were appropriating local businesses, saying that the situation is difficult because the Russian soldiers have declared themselves as authorities, but of course they don't care about the people and their problems. They only care about taking the money from the businessmen and seizing their businesses. Long before the invasion of Ukraine, the Russian military had the reputation for the culture of cruelty. Russia has the hybrid manpower system of contract soldiers and conscript. Although the Russian government claims to have made strides in professionalizing its forces, the country's military still has the brutal hazing system known as the Dedovshchik Dedovщина, a notorious tradition that encourages senior conscript to beat, brutalize, or even rape a younger conscript. Putin recently announced a decree on spring conscription, fixing a target for 134,500 individuals to be called up into the Russian armed forces. The Russian president originally claimed that the Russian conscript would not take part in what Russia has euphemistically dubbed the special military operation in Ukraine. But the Russian Ministry of Defense subsequently acknowledges that draftees were fighting in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian forces claim to have taken a considerable number of Russian conscript prisoners. Ukrainian investigators were already launching criminal probes of alleged crimes by Russian forces as more areas are freed from Russian control, particularly around Kiev and the northern city of Chernihiv. It will be days or perhaps weeks before we get a fuller picture of what happens in Bucha. But if the past is any guide, there is a little hope that Russian perpetrators will be brought to justice. CNN's Alex Hardy contributed this report. CNN Pasco Kotovio contributed reporting from Bucha, Ukraine.